So once again, thank you to Steve for his remarks, and we're going to move straight to our next keynote speaker, Bruce Litchfield. Bruce is a Vice President and General Manager of Sustainment Operations at Lockheed Martin Aeronautics Company. He's responsible for the execution and for the strategic growth of the aeronautics global sustainment business. Bruce retired from 34 years in the Air Force with the rank of Lieutenant General, and he was the first commander of the Air Force Sustainment Center. With that, Bruce, over to you.
Well, good morning, and thank you for that introduction. I'd be remiss if I didn't start out by saying that no matter where you are, I know it's a great day to fly, because every day is a great day to fly. I'm coming to you from Fort Worth at our Lockheed Martin Aeronautics Sustainment site. And what I would like to do is say, I wish this was in person and we could feed off of the energy of the great folks that are out there. And I've heard from a lot of you, and I miss y'all in person. But Ed, I give great credit to you and your team for being able to pull this together, because I think it's important, even in the environment that we're in, that we do what's normal and we continue to progress, because this too, the COVID environment will get over, and we need to be postured to be on the right side of this when we get done. Let me first start out by saying, just last Wednesday we celebrated Veterans Day, and that's to honor those that have served our nation. And I want to say thank you to all that get up every day and put on the uniform and defend our nation. It's a great respect, and to be honest with you, a great testament to our country that you're able to operate in a very difficult time in this pandemic environment and not skip a beat. And while you can't see today, I have two of the Air Force finest in Kara Clark and Mitch Przbaki, who are our Education with Industry fellows here with us this year. And so I at least get some in the audience that I can relate to in terms of the military environment. I also want to do a shout out to our civil servants. They really keep things going and really keep us on top of our game. And I'm a better leader because of my service with the civilian workforce. So thank you. And now that I have my industry badge, I want to say that I am really impressed with the patriotism and dedication of those that serve in industry, that are able to work and continue to deliver the weapon systems that allow us to dominate on the battlefield. This is truly an entire team that I am really proud to be able to work for. In fact, most of my organization is veterans, and they still bleed red, white, and blue. May not put on the uniform, but they do really care about the folks out there that use the weapon systems, support them, and making sure that we can deliver every day to better our nation in the defense of what we hold dear. At this time, I'd like to kind of share with you a video that we put together that kind of looks at the fundamental military traditions and really underpins our focus on the flight line as the center of gravity. So if you would indulge me, please roll the video.
A silent conversation. A call and response. A display of respect without a word. That is a salute. One split-second motion that acknowledges hours of work and camaraderie. An unspoken bond shared by ground crew and air crew. Trust built over 100 years between pilots, maintainers, and sustainment professionals. A promise made by dedicated men and women to reliably sustain combat-ready aircraft anytime, anywhere. The expression may change, but the sentiment will always remain the same. Partnership starts with a common mission, and our mission is to keep you flying for decades to come.
Well, thanks for sharing that video, and I'll be honest with you, I get goosebumps every time I see it, and I wish we were together, because I know that we'd all feed off each other's passion as we have a common bond for sustaining and generating air power regardless of what country we do it for, regardless of what service we do it for, but it's all for the furtherment of democracy and the values that we hold near and dear. You know, I want to launch into this a little bit into my discussion based on a question that I get most frequently, and that is, what is it like to be on the other side? You know, having come out of, as Ed said, 34 years in the Air Force and then stepping into the industry side, people ask me, you know, what is it? What do you feel like? What, you know, how do you make the transition? First and foremost, I will tell you, after spending that much time in uniform, it is a grieving process, right? I gave it all, and I loved every day of it. So I had to go through a process to be able to come to reconciliation that that's no longer my life. But I will tell you that I've been very fortunate. I have an opportunity now to continue to serve our nation and to really, something that's near and dear to me, continue to champion what I will call sustainment transformation. I had a great opportunity in the Air Force and standing up the Sustainment Center, and now I have an opportunity to do it, what I will call at the strategic level, to really drive transformation into our sustainment. And when I make the transition, I will tell you that I've never had to compromise the things that I hold fundamental in my beliefs. And if you knew me in uniform and you hear me today, you'll still hear the phrases of the cost of readiness will determine the size of the force, and the size of the force will determine how we fight and win in the future. In fact, I was pretty excited the other day to hear General Kelly talk that it's not what we can afford to buy, but it's what we can afford to sustain. And so that fundamental holds true. I also believe that when leaders agree on common goals, everything is possible. I have come to know that when you can have an eye lock with a leader that says, this is what we need to accomplish, everything can domino and fall from there to make it successful. And that's the power of leadership. Leadership is everything. And then when I look at sustainment, I've always believed that sustainment is an engineering problem. It's a problem that requires the intricacies and the knowledge of how things need to come together at the flight line and at our depot operations, in our combat environment, to make everything flow at the right time. And the future fight will demand an exquisite engineering definition and problem solving to be able to operate at levels that we've never even anticipated in the past, unprecedented levels, against an enemy that is a high-end capability and in what I would call dispersed environments, to be able to bring that all together to support our joint all-domain operations. Sustainment will be critical to that. And as you look at that into the future, I also think that what we need to be able to make is a little bit of a play on what Steve Marani just briefed upon, is that's our partnership. When I was in uniform, I looked to industry to try to define that partnership and to be able to bring the strengths of what we had in government. And now from the industry side, I really believe in that partnership and the strengths that can pull all together to allow us to achieve those goals that we talked about in that high-end fight. And when I really jump into the partnership arena, I want to be unequivocal about that. There is uniquely capable and competencies on the government and industry team that are unquestionably the best that we have in the world. And, you know, when I first look at what the government strengths are, and you know, I do have a pretty good relationship with current and past leaders that know what they can do great on the flight line, what they can do great in our depot operations, what they can do great in our program offices, on the joint staff, on the combatant staff, the planning, and based on all the talented airmen, sailors, Marines, civilian service, pulling it all together to really dominate, you know, in the skies. That is a strength that we need to build upon. And when I look at the flight line, I look at that as our center of gravity. I look at that as to say, that is where our focus needs to be so that we can be mission ready anytime, any place. And in my new life, I look at what the industry can bring to the table, what industry partners can be able to withhold. And from Lockheed Martin, I look at it from our portfolio of C-130s, C-5s, F-16s, F-22s, F-35, U-2, and many more that we can't talk about. And as the global sustainment leader of the company, I get a chance to look at that entire portfolio. And while each of these systems are at a different phase of their life cycle, each of these systems are really have different technologies and they perform different missions, they have common requirements. First and foremost, they're critical to the future fight. The legacy systems will be around for a long time, and the new systems that we bring on board will have to play into that infrastructure that we're talking about in terms of air battle management and the JADO fight. They need to be relevant, they need to be effective, and they need to be affordable. And when I look at that, it all combines to, at the flight line, they need to be ready to fight tonight. And so when I look at those, even though there are differences, and even though that they're a different phase, there is a commonality. And some could look at that as the challenge. I look at that as the opportunity. That is the call to action that I bring to the work every day, and to be able to see how we can work together as an effective partnership, bringing the strengths of the government, bringing the strengths of industry to be able to raise the bar, to meet the challenges that the nation is demanding of us. When I look at that in terms of our blueprint and how we're approaching it, I've already said it starts with the flight line as the center of gravity. I do have a little bit of a checkered past in the acquisition business. And when I was there, we always focused on the operator to make sure that the operator was able to the weapon system that we developed would dominate on the flight line. And I think today, when I talk to all the pilots of the F-35, they'll say by far and away, it is the most dominant fighter in the world. And it makes their job both in terms of delivering effects and being able to control the skies so easy, or at least so capable. Now I want to bring that to the flight line. I believe our maintainers should have that same experience. I believe our maintainers should be able to brag upon the fact that they've got the ability and capabilities that allow them to dominate at the flight line, to be able to fight tonight. When I look at that, I believe we need to enable our success, whether it's through modernization, whether it's through modifications, whether it's through upgrades. We got to be able to work together to put together our technology upgrades. We got to work together to be able to put the reliance on technology to raise the bar, not use the technology that we had coming out of our past, not what we know, but what we can and what's art of the possible for the future. And we need to be able to share our processes and methods so that we can work with each other to be able to raise the game. And lastly, I do think that there's an ability to use our competencies that we have in our depots that do the major overhauls, but also keep the systems relevant. So instead of replacing old with new old, we can replace old with new. And that keeps the systems being able to operate together. And that's the partnership, the blueprint, the partnership that we need to work together. Now to up it a notch, what I would be able to talk about is at the strategic level. And what I'm offering and what we're working on, and quite frankly, what we're delivering on today is based on a sustainment success system. It really integrates the capabilities of the flight line being the center of gravity, being a partner for life with our customers, and also bringing engineering for sustainment so that we're able to apply it to the high-end fight and being able to improve more capabilities for those maintainers, sustainers, and logisticians. They're going to have to operate 24/7 anywhere and any place. Now I want to anchor on engineering for sustainment for a minute. When I think about engineering for sustainment, there's really two elements to that. One, and you've heard a lot about lately, is the digital engineering model or digital thread that we can work for new systems. Very exciting. So that when a system is still in the drawing board, still in the concept phase, we can operate not only in how to produce it, but how to sustain it and how to work together and do iterative designs without ever cutting metal. Really exciting, and we're leading in that forefront for engineering for sustainment. But the second piece, and maybe one that we don't talk about nearly enough, is the digital thread to support our sustainment environment. The ability to connect the flight line through the maintenance, upgrades, and overhaul process, all the way through the strategic elements of what it's going to take to operate, and how you daisy chain that together. You know, we talk an awful lot about analytics. We talk an awful lot about artificial intelligence. We talk an awful lot about what we're going to do in machine learning. But connecting those threads and being able to operate in that environment is really where the payoff becomes. And I'm very excited that in our engineering for sustainment arena, that is what we've been working on, operating on, and quite frankly, delivering on today. Not only for our future systems, but also for the legacy, because it does no good to be in a high-end fight with the predominance of legacy systems and not being able to deliver on the high resilient logistics that it's going to need to be able to sustain and operate. Now, our system, our sustainment success system, really hinges on 4 pillars. One is highly reliable systems, and you can work that and design it into the new systems, and you can operate and work that in terms of relevancy for existing systems and how to do the upgrades to be able to make that work. The second is a cognitive supply chain, linking the analytics and linking what's going on in the field with the ability to trade high volume or for high velocity. And that's the only way it's going to operate in what I would call the contested environment. Predictive health. Whether you're talking about diagnostics or prognostics, the analytics that underpin that are critical and capable. And then finally, supporting the future of condition-based maintenance. Now, it's not an and in any of these environments, it's an or, and they all have, it's really to bring all of that together. You don't want or high reliability, or cognitive supply chain, or predictive health, or condition-based maintenance. You want it all, and you want it packaged together, and you want it linked and connected. And that's what our sustainment success system is focused on. When I look at the elements at the heart of our digital transformation, we can think about it both in terms of new, and we can think about it in terms of legacy. And our sustainment success system picks that together so that you have a common look and feel. And while my title is as the Global Readiness for Aeronautics, I also dual hat as the Corporate Sustainment Chair for our enterprise, to be able to bring it to you, whether it's a Lockheed product in aeronautics, whether it's space, whether it's missiles, whether it's helicopters, and bringing that together as a team. And when I look at the future, it's about being able to support the joint all-domain operations. Joint all-domain is not one thing, it's everything. And sustainment can be a critical node in making that happen. It's to be able to do readiness, reduce the readiness burdens for our folks on the flight line so they can be more efficient and more effective. It's the opportunity to be able to drive affordability into our systems, whether they're fielded or whether they're future. And it's operating on a capacity to be able to take advantage of what the strengths of our government and industry team can do best together. And maybe most of all, is what excites me, is that if we can agree on these as being common goals, there's absolutely nothing that can stop us and being able to plan a future that's much better than our past. And we'll be able to keep them flying for the far future at a better than we've ever had in the past. So let me stop there, and I know that we have some questions, and Ed, I'll turn it over to you to facilitate. I know that was quick and a pass through, but I wanted to be able to make sure that our audience had a chance to engage should they wish to.
Okay. Bruce, thank you. That was very interesting. So first question I want to toss out to you is you talk about, having the force that we can afford to sustain. and the flight line as the center of gravity. Is this taken seriously enough, you think, both in the building, up on the hill, sustainment vis-a-vis compared to R&D, compared to procurement, or do those get more of a special place?
So I believe that sustainment's got to earn their place at the table, and you don't get to sit at the little table and complain. You got to be sitting at the big table and you make it happen. And I think our leadership team that we have in the building, we've heard from Steve and he mentioned some great leaders that we have in there, both in OSD and quite frankly in our services. I think affordability is definitely on the forefront of people's mind, and it really is driving a lot of decisions. The question is, do we have the courage to take the leap? And more importantly, maybe, how do we set the bar to take the leap to do things different tomorrow than we do today? I think that's the next part of the discussion that we have to have is I don't think anybody should take my word for it or take anybody's word for it that we have a promise or we have something that we say we can deliver. I think we ought to use a lot of what we do in the operational community is saying, here's the bar that we have to meet to be able to prove that we can reduce manpower or improve our efficiency on the flight line by the capabilities we deliver, and set up those tests kind of in an environment that makes us demonstrate that that is in the art of the possible, and then have the courage to go press on to the future. So I don't think it's about having a seat at the table. I think it's about making sure that we set up the stair step, maybe the crawl, walk, run approach to how do we then take the leap to be able to change the way we have done things in the past.
Okay, you mentioned digital threads. What do you see as the biggest impediment to connecting all of those?
Data. Data is by far and away we didn't bring, especially for legacy systems. We have data in all, it's preserved, it's stored, it's formatted. It's really disparate in the way it operates. I happen to be on a National Academy's help support a National Academy study on how do we do data and data analytics. And what I call, in my terminology, we have data cesspools. Our job is to be able to clean up that data so that they can be ingested by the tools and capabilities so that we get a unified answer. That is really where I will tell you I'm focused. There's a lot of exciting things that are coming into pass so that we can set up the tools to be able to, I'll call it cleanse the data so that they can be ingested by the modern tools, whether it's a system that's been in the field for 50 years or it's still on the drawing board. That's the exciting part about being part of the sustainment digital environment and quite frankly, creating that sustainment digital thread.
So government, industry, there's a lot of joint interest in really maintaining and sustaining a healthy defense industrial base. What can the companies and the government do together to work together on that to keep it going that way?
Yeah, so I think, so first from my point of view, Steve talked about having that partnership with one of the top 5 companies. You may be looking at one of the top 5 companies that we're working with Steve Maroney on that effort. And I think what it has to do is underpinned by trust. And I when I say that from my perspective, I do not want to compete with the Air Force depots. What I want to do is make the Air Force depots stronger. Their success is our success is their success. How can we bring in tools for modernization? How can we bring in, I'll call it the analytics and methodologies that we use on the production floor for new systems and evolve it for legacy systems? Those are the type of discussions that we need to have at a very strategic level that says these are the goals that we want to achieve. And it's not about competition. It's not about whether we need both. It's about how do we make each other better. And that's the serious discussion that really I'm working to engage in and make sure that we have so that we can have a healthy balance moving forward.
There's a new ODIN system replacing Alice for an F-35 squadron out in Yuma, Arizona. Can you tell us why that is and how's it going?
Well, so I think that, so you brought up Alice. You know, Alice was the information system for the F-35. It was based on, late 90s technology and never had a refresh through the program. So when you go out to the field now, and I'm not going to tell you that's anybody's fault, right? The focus was on the weapon system. I think everybody knew that supporting in 2020 a flight line maintainer with 1990 technology was due for a refresh. So Odin is an ability to take what I would call modern software development, modern architecture, modern hardware. In fact, we were just have a demonstration with the first set of new capabilities, new equipment, hardware, replacing the old 1990s, and just the old code ran amazingly faster and more efficient, and really has come a long way. So I think as you start to take that new hardware, the new computational equipment, combine it with new software algorithms, and working with the government, and it's a government-led, Odin's a government-led project, and we're supporting as necessary. I think you're going to see great satisfaction in the field, and quite frankly, a great improvement to how we maintain the F-35 and build upon it for our other systems, right? Once you get an information system out there, adapting it to the fleet is a pretty natural evolution.
Okay. This one is not related to F-35. It's related to COVID. And the question is that came in is, what would you have done differently at the beginning of the pandemic if you knew what you knew now?
You know, I'm not going to go to the national level because that one's hotly contested. I really have been pretty impressed, very impressed with how first Lockheed has done it, and I'll do it in separate ways. We have workers both on the production floor and the sustainment doing mods, and quite frankly, our sustainment support folks in the field that have come to get work every day since that environment. What we've had to do, you know, in the support of that is really upgrade our IT systems, be able to learn to work virtually, and quite frankly, every day is a new learning process. So collaboration, how do we do tools, and how do you find the right balance between what I'm going to call virtual and in person? And what we're finding is that virtual works great for a lot of things. I'll call it the day-to-day and methodical tasks. But when you need to be creative, when you need to be innovative, when you need to really be pushing the envelope to solve big and hairy problems, you really do need to have the ability to have some type of face-to-face. So I think what we did is we locked down, we shut down, and then we started to open up. I think if I had to do it again, I would strike the balance between, you know, our workforce was able to come in every day to produce. Our workers in the field were able to support the operations at every base. I would have probably at the above the shop floor level, or in the what I'll call the thinking environment, had the balance between when do we need to be creative and inventive and solve problems in more of a face-to-face than do that virtually. I think that's but we're getting better at it, quite frankly, every day. And as a company, I don't see tomorrow being the same as it was in the past. Lockheed Martin was not a telecommute company. I think when you see in the future, you'll see the balance, much like all of industry, seeing the balance between what workers do you actually need to have the face-to-face discussion or interaction, and what can you do virtually. The government's doing the same, and I've seen it in terms of how DoD is going to operate in the future. Thanks for the question there, Ed.
Yeah, and I think that was exactly the right answer. I don't think anybody wanted the national answer. I think it was really what you guys are doing. So that makes sense. And everybody's telecommuting. I mean, welcome to my home office, right? That's the way it works.
Did you get a chance to explain that background? That looks very intriguing. It looks like your hobby shop and your man cave, I would say.
It is my man cave and my personal photo studio. So there you go. Bruce, I want to thank you very, very much. We really appreciate that. It was very enlightening. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for attending. I hope you got a lot out of that, and we got to as many questions there as we could possibly get. From here, we're switching over to some of the meeting slots. So if you're networking, and I'll remind you one more time, sign up for the networking if you haven't done that. this is your opportunity for some of those networking meetings. We'll then go to a lunch break from 1 o'clock to 2 o'clock. And we're going to come back at 2 o'clock with something called Sustainment Program Baseline, which I kind of teased in a question to Bruce here, of giving giving sustainment equal standing with development and procurement. We'll see you then. Have a great one. Thank you very, very much for being with us.